This episode is brought to you by Jing's Mortgage Team. Jing's Mortgage Team is a team of real estate mortgage professionals whose mission is to help anyone with their real estate needs. If you're looking to buy a home, sell a home, refinance your home, have credit issues, or in need of an investment loan, we can definitely help you. If you're looking for a real estate agent, we know the best of the best real estate agents. Visit the link below for more information. Claudia, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank
Secret
you.
Sauce
Thank you.
with Hamilton Lau. I am absolutely honored to have you on. I think for our guests, I think Claudia is an incredibly interesting person. She has a storied life, and I am so ecstatic to have her back, as a recurring guest because just she's been through so much as a traveler, as a traveling mom, as a freelance writer, as a real estate investor, as it's just the list can go on. A Queen's top real estate agent. It's just wow. And with the Secret Sauce with Hamilton Lau, for any new viewers here, it's a podcast to try and really pick the brain, peel the curtain back on what makes people successful, what makes people do the things that they do, and specifically successful people. So, Claudia, thank you so much for coming
Thank
on.
you.
It is an absolute honor.
It's an honor for me. Thank you so much.
Well, please, the honor is mine. but Claudia, there were so many things that we could definitely talk about, and I think looking at your storied history, it seems that the biggest theme that is reoccurring is traveling. So I love to dedicate this episode and talk about you as the Claudia Looi, the amazing traveler. And especially since Claudia actually spent time traveling with her young kids at the time, and raised them while she was traveling. This is going to be a really cool episode for parents that are thinking about traveling, traveling with their kids or raising them while they travel. But Claudia, please share with the viewers about yourself and especially about traveling. When did you start getting this in your system, the traveling bug?
Right. So I'm from Malaysia, born in a very, very small town. It's actually a village in Malaysia to parents that are not really educated. So I don't speak English when I was very young. We speak something else, another language. So when I was 9 years old, I happened to look at this little, years ago, where we have these wrappers. They when you buy sugar or you buy rice in the country, in Malaysia, so these people, they make this brown bag. And inside the brown bag, because they want it to be, heavier, so they put a lot of papers down there. See that? So my mother told me, she said, look, inside this bag, there are more papers because this is the way they make money. Because if they give you sugar, one kilo, it's quite expensive, but the paper is like cheap. So she said, when you open up, you can read a lot of stuff in there. So that's what I did. I opened up and I saw, pictures of faraway country, beautiful places that I have never seen before. Sheep, beautiful trees, greeneries everywhere. It's just like out there. I've never seen this kind of places before. So I began to dream about this kind of places, and I told myself, when I'm older, I'm going to do this. I'm going to travel. I'm going to see these places because right now I don't see these places. So I began to, every time when she goes shopping, so I grab these bags and open it up, and there are some things that you can read in English. So I was learning English at that time, so I was reading, and this was the seed that was planted when I was about 9 years old, and I began to read English.
Wow, that's incredible. So you think like rice is such a nutritious, it helps sustain the soul, helps sustain the body. And in your case, you open the rice and it sustains your mind.
Yeah,
right?
I opened the whole
Wow,
brown
it's like it sustains your body to sustain your mind, right? That's amazing. So in Malaysia, where in Malaysia are you? Did you grow up?
In Malacca, which is used to be a Portuguese. The Portuguese went to Malacca years back in the 1500s.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So we still have the little town there where they are the Portuguese descendants from years back. So I'm from that country, that part of town, inside to the village. So I'm in the village. So we are among people who don't speak English, do not go, my parents don't go to school, things like that. Yeah.
Ah, I see. That's fascinating. So from there on, just the seeds that were planted. When did you take the first leap to start traveling on your own, at least?
So 17, I left home. Yeah.
What?
So I went to the city. Kuala Lumpur is the capital city. So I moved there and I went to school there. Not successful. Didn't do well. Moved to another school. I went to Penang to go to school. So that's the second biggest city in Malaysia. That's where I flourish. You see, where you go is very important in life. Certain places that you go to, it's just not your vibe. You don't really, you can't grow as a person. So for me, the place where I grew up really well and I find myself is in Penang, Malaysia, second biggest city. It's an island. So that place really put a seed in me to see more. I went to the university, the first one in my hometown actually, woman that goes to university. I come from a very small place. I'm not gonna say where. I'm not telling. Exactly. So I went to the university. I majored in geography because I love geography. So I majored in geography and political science. So from there, I told myself, when I graduated, I told myself, I'm going to go to work for 2 years and we'll leave. So this is what I did. A friend of mine, we were supposed to move to New Zealand together. And we planned for 6 months. 6 months. And so, you see, you got to put something on your head. So what I did was, poor graduate, right?
Yeah.
So put a New Zealand map on my wall where I sleep. Every night, look at it. This is where I'm going 6 months. Not only that, in Malaysia, we have this consulate, New Zealand consulate. So in order for me to know about New Zealand, this is what I did. I go to the consulate every weekend when I'm free to read a newspaper, the New Zealand Herald. So read it. So just to plant in my head that I'm going, tell everyone that I'm going. People are like, oh, you're crazy.
And this is incredible because this was before Google, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah.
Because nowadays, we're so spoiled nowadays. It's like, hey, I want to go somewhere, I'm just going to Google.
No, there's no such thing.
Yeah, or like how to travel.
No.
Like you get like 100 hits immediately,
No.
But this was a time when, hey, if you really wanted to really form your fate, create your life, create your fate, Claudia was so committed to doing it. She went to the New Zealand consulate and wow, and you look through that's incredible.
Looking for jobs too. It's like
Yeah.
years ago, all
Yeah.
the jobs are just on classified ads. Nobody has this Google, whatever, nothing. So 6 months came, my friend said, no, I'm not going. She was afraid.
Oh no.
I'm not going. I said, I am going without you.
I have to ask you, what was it about you that you felt that you just had to do it? Was it that seed that was planted when you were 9 years
I
old?
guess
Or was it
so.
something else? Or
I felt that where I was in Malaysia was not for me. See, so because where you are, you get favor. I really don't feel like I was growing. I can't. In that environment for me at that time was not for me. So I knew that I have to go somewhere where I have dreamt, where I have seen the sheep and the greeneries. Just imagine, those are the things that I saw when I arrived in New Zealand. Exactly.
you must have been just over the moon seeing everything that as a child saw in those newspapers, right? Wow.
It was not easy to go there. Not at all, because you have to, years back in the 90s, no, sorry, I cannot date myself. It's too late. So when I went finally by myself, so I go to church, and then this church friend was in New Zealand. So I wrote to him and said, hey, can you house me for 2 nights? So he did. I went there and stayed with them for 2 nights, and they introduced me to their friends who put me up in a place where I have to pay like 80 New Zealand dollars a week.
Is that a lot back then?
No, everything included.
Oh wow, including food.
Food, because it was a hostel for young women. such a good setup. That's why friends are very important. We just, you have to think, even though people like to help you,
Yeah.
seriously, they do, if you ask. So this person, from this person that I know from Malaysia that went to New Zealand, he brought me to the person that has this place to live in New Zealand. And from there, I began to have more and more and more friends. Yeah. So when I arrived, I have to find a job, right?
Yeah.
Because that's the only way.
Yeah.
But to get a job, you have to get papers. So we can go into details for that, but I'm not going to tell you today.
Yeah.
It's too much. Yeah. But I live in New Zealand. Long story short, I work in New Zealand as a travel agent for a guy who was an expert in Russia, Soviet Union at that time. Soviet Union.
Yeah.
I'm dating myself.
No, but
And Soviet Union and China, and the railroad, the Trans-Mongolian Railroad and the Trans-Siberian Railroad. So he was the expert, the well-known expert in New Zealand. So that's where I worked for 2 years.
wow, I gotta say, a few things because oh man, this is just such an incredible story. So I gotta say, the first school that you went to, for definitely our viewers that maybe aren't doing too well in school, or maybe is encountering our young viewers that are encountering an obstacle with school. Like for you, when did you say, hey, you know what, this first school is not for me? And what happened inside of you internally that said, hey, forget this school, I'm gonna go somewhere else? What gave you the strength to say, because it's very brave for you to say, forget this school, I'm gonna go somewhere else?
Yeah, that's a good point, because I failed totally in that school, because that environment was not good for me. Totally not good. I was not happy there. F's, all of them. I'm not a very good student, but I tried my best. So yeah, I left. It was not easy. I went back to my parents, who were very disappointed at that time. I said, hey, I want to be a flight attendant. Can I do that? I said, no, because if you're a flight attendant to them, you're gonna be to them, it's the Asian thing. It's like, oh, you're just going to clean you're just a waitress.
Right.
Sort of to them, but not to me. So that's, they told me you have to go back to school. That's why I have to look for myself. Everything I have to do on my own. My parents are not going to tell me where to go.
Right.
So I found a school for myself in Penang, and that was a turning point.
Wow. I feel like I'm already seeing something interesting, really, really interesting about you, Claudia. Because, Malaysia, as a part of that Asian society, Asian community, family is supposed to come first, right? In many Asian cultures, your last name comes first, and then it's your first name. Well, it would be different in the Asian cultures, right?
Yeah.
So for Claudia this is incredible to me, for Claudia to have the bravery and the courage to say, I'm not going to listen to my parents. I'm going to follow my heart. This is not normal. I mean, I'm not saying that you're strange or anything, but this is not normal in the Asian culture, Asian community. Nowadays, I know it's a little more liberal now. Kids are more and more in the Asian community, Asian culture, are following their dreams more. But you were at a time where it's like you have to follow your parents' or your family's goals,
Yeah.
So I definitely give you credit. And I'm going to come back to this later, right? Because I want to know, what was it inside of you? Because that could be your secret sauce potentially, right?
Yeah.
What was it inside of you that said, hey, I'm just going to follow my heart instead of everybody else? And especially our viewers, they can definitely gain some value on that. When do they decide, I'm going to do what I want to do and not what people are telling me what to do? But without going into too much of a tangent, and it's amazing how each time you went into a new path, you continue to lean towards or go in the direction of your passion.
Yeah.
And your passion has always been traveling, right? So whether it be leaving to the new school, to going to New Zealand, and then now working with this travel agency where the person is an expert within that
Trans-Mongolian, Trans-Siberian.
Wow, Trans-Mongolian, Trans-Siberian Railroad, right?
Yes.
Wow. Now talk about so from there, what happened?
So I worked with this guy for 2 years, and one day he was like, hey, I need somebody to go to China for me and the Soviet Union. So I was in my 20s at that time. I said, of course, right? So I said, of
Just-
course.
Have
Last minute.
Have you been there?
Never. Last minute. So he did the visa for me. He's an expert. Of course, he can get a visa very quickly. It's like 5 days or so. You have to go. Yes, I go. That's it. 20s. You don't care. So I left, went to Hong Kong, went to Beijing, and then met up with the group in Urumqi, which is in Xinjiang. Way back then, China was different.
I have to ask you, were you like, was there any fear in you?
Of course. But
How did you that's
I
definitely
don't
like,
care.
how
I
did you,
want to travel. I don't care.
how did you, was it maybe because, you were kind of on your own, you didn't have anything to lose, and you just wanted to,
no,
you just want,
yeah.
I'm just making a summary, correct me if I'm wrong, would you say that you just had, because you were young, you didn't have anything to lose, you didn't have any kids, you weren't married at the time, it's just, you just wanted to follow and live your dream. Is that a safe?
I was like, gee, this trip back then in New Zealand dollars is going to cost you at least $15,000 to $20,000.
That was back then, right.
Back then. Now I can't even imagine. It's a very small group, very, very niche, right? These people are like immersing into the culture. Going into Soviet Union at that time is incredible. You have to travel by bus from that little Yiling place. I think it's called Yiling, the border town, to Kazakhstan. By
Yeah,
bus.
and again, for our viewers who may not be good at geography and culture, like we're talking about going somewhere that is just drastically different culture from Malaysia, from Asia, right? From New Zealand, right? So it's like for you to just say, I'm gonna do this. I mean, it's an incredible trip. I mean, I don't know if I can pass up an opportunity like that if I was your age, Like everything was covered, including my meals and everything.
Free. Totally. And we still get paid for it.
Yes,
Yeah.
go do it. If you ever get an opportunity like this, you've gotta do it.
It was scary. Seriously. I had a cultural shock in China. I couldn't imagine. Really can't. Even though I'm from Malaysia. Yeah.
It was very different. Malaysia and China at the time was a very different
totally
culture.
different. Yeah, I was totally I had so much culture shock. I even see people following me.
Just watching you and seeing, what is this person doing? What would you say would be like a big cultural difference from China and Malaysia for our viewers that
The food, because I'm from Malaysia, so the food in Xinjiang is different. They eat a lot of beef and not lamb. I think it's lamb. It was lamb.
Yeah,
it's so different.
and Malaysia is like a melting pot
Yes.
of
Yeah.
a lot. This is awesome too for our travelers out there. Please, check out Malaysia because it's like a melting pot of cuisine. You have Muslim influences,
yeah.
Chinese influences,
yeah. And
Indian. Amazing food. I love Malaysian food. I'm so sorry for cutting you off. Yeah.
Yeah. So the food, the people, it's different. People spit on I don't do that. So I don't see that. So that's the thing that I was not aware of it also. So that's way back a long time ago. Anyway, went to Russia is even more different. Yeah, it was Soviet Union at that time. And we have to follow exactly what they tell us to do. You can't go everywhere by yourself. So that experience was so amazing. I think I was quite changed after that trip. So at that time when I had to go back to New Zealand. So I chose to come to New York instead of traveling in Europe. So I went from London, after the trip in Russia, I went to Finland and I flew to London, meet my sister there who was, at that time studying there. And then from there to New York, that's where I came to see Ken. Because Ken was living here at that time. I wanted free accommodation. So that's
Of course.
So I wanted free accommodation. So I wanted to see, I was so intrigued with the Amish people at that time. Yeah. So the only place I wanted to see was, seriously, Trump Tower.
Yeah.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Trump Tower and Amish country.
Yeah.
That was it.
Like the heart of the city,
Yeah.
right? And then go Pennsylvania, I think was
Yeah.
it? Yeah, Amish country. Right?
Lancaster, Reading.
Yeah.
So that's what we did. Ken took me around. Then I went to Hawaii and went back. So it was like a round the world trip actually. I went to 4 continents at that time.
All within what, like 6 months?
20, I think a month.
A 1 month period?
Yes. Because I was taking those people around. I was like the tour leader.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
To take them from China all the way to Finland.
Yeah.
In Finland, my job was done. So as long as I took them from China, Russia, Soviet Union, and then to Finland.
Yeah. And just to fill in the blanks, right? Not just anybody can be a tour leader, right? It has to be somebody that has the adventurous spirit, the explorer's spirit, somebody who's willing to be brave and courageous enough to not just go and do something new, but have the sense of responsibility for the people
Yeah.
that are with them, you know? And which again really encompasses Claudia. Like you just, like overall, I've known you for about a year now, and overall that's always been how you are. Like super
Thank
caring,
you.
super great
Thank
person.
you.
So yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned your sister, because do you have any other siblings besides your sister?
5 girls, including these 6 girls.
Would you say all 6 of you are travel oriented?
Mostly, no. Yeah.
All of them mostly
Yeah.
have this.
Not all, yeah,
not
not
all,
all,
but
yeah.
sure. But
Yeah.
wow, that this is again. I'll try to pick at this later. What was it about your family? What was it about your experiences as a kid? I mean, was it everybody in that village, or was it just
No.
your household?
Yes, our
what was it
household.
about that? Is that bag of rice that magical that transformed you 6 kids? To have at least have some kind of traveling foundation.
Yeah, because I was the oldest. Yeah, I'm the oldest girl.
right.
Yeah. So I guess I was the influence. My mother always tells me, whatever you do, they will see. That's why, even though I don't want to go to college, I did it. For her, for my parents. I did it 4 years. So likewise, I guess when I did what I did, they saw it. But they didn't do extensively like me. Maybe probably half of it, but still, they did it on their own.
It's like there's something, I think there's been psychology studies on where you are in a position of your siblings does determine a big impact on your personality.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
How you are. And would you say that being the eldest was that experience? Because I've always wondered what was it like to be an older child as well, like the eldest child. And would you say that's an experience that maybe helped set the foundation for you in everything you do, as far as being adventurous, being brave? Would you say it's...
Yeah, because I have to carve out my own life. Nobody's going to tell me what to do. My parents can't. They don't know anything. So I have to do it on my own.
And as I'm the youngest. So me growing up, I always had somebody to look up to. I always had a resource to ask a question to. But as the eldest, I mean, especially if your parents, they don't have the same goals as you, there at that time too, there's no Google.
No.
It's just, and I want to emphasize this, ladies and gentlemen, for my millennials, for my Gen X and Yers, there was no Google at the time, right? So it's like really, it takes a real big adventurous spirit and a lot of courage to really do what Claudia does. So talk about it. So you met Ken at the time, and you had stayed with Ken in New York. You explored Trump Tower.
Yeah.
You explored Amish country. So continue. How was it?
So I know Ken long time from Malaysia.
Oh,
yeah.
cool.
So I already knew him. So long story
Ken, your
short,
husband, your current
my
husband.
Yeah.
Right.
So long story short, I went back to New Zealand, but a year later I moved here to get married. So that's long story short. So I came here unwillingly, seriously. I was not wanting to come to the United States at all. It was not in my agenda, not at all. But then we were looking at the pros and cons. If I were to live in New Zealand, then his job is not going to be that good. So the only way that we can do that is just move me and come to the US. So to move to another country is another thing. It's not easy because I was comfortable. I was growing, my career was growing. So I just cut short whatever career that I was supposed to flourish in. I was with a better company then, a bigger company, a really good company. I left and came here, and I have no papers. It was so hard. I think the hardest part was to come to the United States. Because, immigrant, no job, no money. I mean, some money, have some money, but career cut short. Now I have to start all over again, right? So
What would you say? I mean, I have assumptions, but I would love to hear it from you. What would you say was the biggest determining factor for you because again, especially for our viewers, like for you to have a happy established life already, and then suddenly said, I'm just gonna leave this behind, to come to America, come to New York, what was the determining factor that led you to this? Was it a person? Was it a passion? Was it, just continuing to explore?
So by then I was going into, over 25 already by then, right? Over. So it's like at that age, you are like over the hill.
Ah, okay.
See that?
Yeah, I hear you.
So when I came a year before to meet up with Ken with no intentions whatsoever, then I find out this person is really honest. He's a husband material, sort of. Husband material means somebody who is trustworthy, somebody who can actually go work, which is important, right?
Have a sense of responsibility.
Yes, responsibility. So I told myself, well, it's my next phase. I'm going to get married. So either I want to get married or I can stay here in New Zealand and be comfortable and not find the person that I think is good for me, right? So that's where I make a decision to come here. Yeah. Leave everything, leave all my friends, my comfort, and came to New York.
To pursue this new adventure.
Yeah, that's it.
Love.
Yes.
Of marriage.
Yes, marriage,
right.
Children, family, those kind of thing that is in mind at that time because, I'm going into 30s.
Right. That was important to you.
Yeah, at that
right,
time.
At the time.
So
and
yeah.
you decided, Ken is a great guy.
Yeah.
I'm going to, definitely pursue this new adventure. I mean, in many ways, things don't really stop or close, right?
Yeah.
Like you as a traveler doesn't really just stop being a traveler. You don't stop,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like you still are who you are, right? But it's just you're pursuing a new adventure,
Right.
So
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. So we, coming here is, it took time, but eventually I worked with a travel company here. So experiences from place to place has given me opportunity for better things because now I have experience in Malaysia and New Zealand, and now I am coming to the US, right? And I think I speak good English at that time, New Zealand English at that time,
Yeah.
for sure. So it helped me find a job very easily. Yeah. So I was still in the travel industry when I came.
Right. So at that point, still having that traveling spirit in you, you end up having two beautiful kids,
Yep.
right? So walk our viewers through this idea, that traveling spirit that never left you, and heck, it's the time now. My kids are, I don't remember how old they were when you decided to take them to travel with you, but talk about that, like your thought process in saying, I'm gonna give my kids this priceless experience, and how, talk a little bit about that.
All right. Okay. So when we were in New York, in Long Island, we decided to move away. Took a comfortable, children were comfortable with the school. I think it was not right for them, so we moved to Florida.
Oh wow! How old were they at the time?
When my daughter was 8, my son was 5.
So elementary school, pre-K type. Yeah.
So they left when my daughter was going into 4th grade. My son was in kindergarten. No, 1st grade. When he was going to 1st grade. So we left and went to Florida. It was the best move ever. Scary. Everybody say you're silly, but it was the best move ever for the kids.
And you moved just with plans of
living
in Florida for good.
Yeah.
Okay.
So while in Florida, I started being an investor, investing in properties. Everybody was doing that at that time. And 2008 came, and it really was very bad for me. Not a good year for me, for a lot of people too. So from there, it changed me as a human being. It humbled me as a person. And I began to look at myself and what we had. At the end of the day, I told myself what is more important is really family and experiences, not things anymore at that time.
It must have been a great experience that happened in
yeah,
2008.
yeah.
Do you mind sharing a little bit what happened?
So I actually lose everything. You know, I had this thing that, oh, look, I have this property, this property, this property, right? In actual fact, I'm a realtor, and I know when you are an investor, don't think about how many properties you have. It's not important. What is cash flowing? What is working for you? Your ROI is more important than the number of houses.
Return or investment.
Yes. You can't be so proud like, oh, I have this house, that house. I don't care how many houses you have. Just tell me how much you're making per house. Are you able to pay if you can't collect rent? So I didn't look into I did look into that, but my problem was I was a long distance investor. I bought I bought in Florida, of course. I also bought in Tennessee. That was my downfall. I had management company that were not being good. Properties had good ROI, but I had turnover too many times. Every year, 10 months, 10 months. It's not a year, 10 months. So after when 2008 came, some of this mortgage was not done properly. I was like, cut my losses. I'm done.
So
I
all
did
those
not want to
houses
deal with that.
you end
Yeah.
up selling those houses or
All short sale.
wow, so you lost money.
Oh yeah, short
Wow.
sale.
So essentially you lost everything.
I'm now a short sale expert.
Short sale expert over here.
Don't do it. I don't.
Oh boy. So you're in Florida at the time and it's 08 happened, you lost, it humbled you. Wow.
Yeah,
I can
humbled me
imagine.
totally as a human
Yeah,
being,
yeah.
and really see the perspective of things, life. So I began to think about it and ask my husband, is it okay if we plan on going away for 2 years? It's a big planning because the kids were then high school, middle
Elementary school,
school,
right? Oh.
elementary. One is going to middle school. One was going to high school, right? So my husband said, if you think this is good, let's do it, but it's going to be difficult. So
And Ken to stop what he was doing for to have that kind of hiatus for 2 years, Ken essentially maybe had to quit or maybe
of course he
even,
quit his job.
He had to quit his
Yeah.
job. Wow.
But then this is what we did. 2010, we began to plan. We started planning in 2010. So that was 2008 to 2010, we began to plan. I told my daughter, because in Florida it's really good, you can actually do virtual school on top of your brick and mortar school.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so good. You can add on. So she completed her high school at 17 because we were supplementing those things.
Wow.
So she was 17. My son at that time, when he was in middle school, we told him, you have to add on. Since you're so free, have nothing to do, because school is easy, right? So just add on. So by the time we left, we already put him in virtual school, Florida virtual school.
So they were already ahead academically,
Yes.
Ahead of their age
Yes.
group at least.
So my son we already make him familiar with Florida virtual school. So his virtual school is free in Florida.
Wow, get out of here. That's cool.
It's actually recommended at that time. So when my son was 14, he went to virtual high school, Florida virtual high school, full time. He didn't go to school, brick and mortar school at all.
Right, he traveled with
Yes.
you guys.
So we started traveling when he was 14, daughter was 17. So 14, 17 in early 2013.
So talk about the decision that you made, because this is, again, it's so adventurous. How did you make this determination to say, and why did you make this determination to say, I'm gonna give these kids this experience? Like, why? What was your thought process like?
I was thinking to spend more time with them, to bond with them. That's one, which is very important. So till today, my kids are very, respectful. We talk. So which I cherish, which is very important.
Right.
And I wanted us to bond. That's one. I wanted them to see the world so that it can open their mind up. Because I always tell my son when he was young, I say, look, all you do now is just watch soccer, the Premier League, on the box in the box.
Like the TV, right?
Why don't we just go for a Premier League game in London? Isn't that better?
How did he feel about that when you said that?
He's like,
was that
no,
good?
he was young, he doesn't care.
Oh, he didn't care.
But he realized he did know. So things like that, I have to tell them before I do anything. I have to tell them this is what we're gonna do. You cannot just pluck kids out of school. No, you have to explain to them why we're doing this, what is going to happen when you do this, and every decision that I make, you have to come and give some
agree,
yes,
agree or
because even though they are teenagers at that time, they have to know what is going on.
Right. I could imagine if they hated the experience, it would be miserable for everybody, right?
Yeah.
So they have to be on board.
They love it.
And at the time,
Yeah.
were they scared, or did they just not care? Or
They were scared, but we don't just pluck them out. It took 2 years.
Right.
It's
Constantly.
like eventually, day by day, week by week, planning, and then mindset. I have to teach them mindset. Actually, my kids were already reading John Maxwell when they were little.
John Maxwell, for those of you who don't know, we highly recommend it. A great, prolific self-help author. He writes like a lot of books on self-help.
So they were reading John Maxwell, Stephen Covey's teenage book or whatever. That they were already reading books like that, and I make them do book report.
By the way, just a quick reminder before I forget, right? Like, if you talk to successful people, they do things very similarly, right? Besides having the adventurous spirit, being courageous, right? They all read. Successful people read. John Maxwell is definitely a reoccurring author within the circle of successful people. So definitely, for our viewers, check out John Maxwell if you never heard him.
My son, when he was little, he could actually repeat Brian Tracy's words.
like from a book, like exact word by word.
Certain words. He knew what is going to come because we listen over and over in the car.
The audiobook.
In audiobook in the car.
Cassette. Right?
Yeah.
Right.
Boom. So he is like, he repeated. I'm like, my goodness, this guy knows exactly what is the next word.
That's awesome. That's great mental exercise. Right?
Yeah.
But would you have any, besides prepping them for 2 years, do you have any other advice or suggestions for parents that, are curious about taking their kids to travel for long term, or, maybe even, making that decision? I'm about to do it in like 5 years. Do you have any other advice for them to, yeah.
My advice is, education is important, but it's not the only thing. Really not. Because I've seen with my own eyes where kids go to Harvard, they are not well behaved. Not the word well behaved. They can't look people in the eye. They have no self-confidence. So what is more important, Harvard or self-confidence?
Wow, this is a very deep conversation, and I love it. This is amazing. Yeah, self-confidence, right? Confidence in life.
Yeah.
Right? Who cares about labels when you don't have the ability to do things?
That's my philosophy. That's why I took my kids to go around the world, because I want to spend time with them. I want to tell them that, hey, look, you are made to be who you are. And if you don't have self-confidence and you're not aware of who you are nothing. You cannot even love yourself, or even look into somebody's eyes and say, hey, my name is this, I'm this. How can you even be influencing anyone next time when you go to work?
Wow. So would you say that traveling foundation that you have gave you, because you took that leap and obtained those experiences, it helped you build your self-confidence?
Definitely.
And that's something that you wanted to instill upon your children.
And also, one of the main things is because I have so much self-doubt as a human being. I had
Interesting.
so much of self-doubt, self-love, bad things. So I have to go through that in stages in my life to realize that those are toxic things in my head, and I don't want my kids to have that. So when my kids were little, this is the thing. If let's say we have to wake up early tomorrow, and they don't have enough sleep, all I have to tell them is don't give them anxiety. Don't tell them, hey, go to sleep now because tomorrow you're gonna wake up early. No, I never say that. I just normal. Hey guys, if tomorrow you don't have enough sleep, no worries. It's okay. It's just a day. You can catch up when you sleep the next day. So there's no worries.
Right.
They can just wake up whenever they want. They're tired. Okay, no problem. You're tired. It's true. It's normal. But just imagine we're going somewhere, and after that you can go to sleep. It's okay.
And was this what you told them while you were traveling, or
All the time. Hey, look, this is going to happen. Okay, this is what you're going to expect.
the time difference potentially?
Yes. And food is going to be different, so you have to know that this is going to happen. So everything is preparing them ahead so that they will not melt down. Nothing. No meltdown.
Right. So you never experienced any kind of tantrum or
No,
meltdown?
not at all. That's because this is not their first trip. When they were little, I brought them to
right.
Italy, to places, to Malaysia. They have already traveled, mini traveling. So even that, we already prepared them. So for kids, can you imagine going to Paris and get them to walk? They can't. You know what we do for our kids before we went to Paris when they were little? Let's go for a walk. Because we need to walk a lot when we go to Paris.
Right.
We have to walk this place to see a lot of places. So we have to train them to walk a few months before we go traveling.
Planting the seeds.
Yes.
That's
always.
important.
Yeah. You cannot expect kids to do things suddenly just because you want to do it, right? Or you and I want to do it. You have to prepare them. I think that's how it is.
So would you say, because, and this is again going on my assumptions here, I'd love to hear it from you. Would you say that while you were traveling together, it definitely cemented and tightened the relationship with your immediate family, your husband, your two kids?
Oh, yes.
Because I could imagine, even on the topic, on the subject of tantrums or, being defiant, there's only so much you can have a tantrum be defiant about, right? Like, what are they going to do? Are they going to run away? Like, if you run away while you're traveling, that's probably going to be it. And your kids, I'm sure, were smart enough to know, like, hey, mommy and daddy loves me. They're doing this for me. Yes, I can have growing pains and go through my teenage angst, but then there's like a line that they're not going to cross because you're traveling.
They were very good. They were curious themselves. So they were curious, and they already had that curiosity. It was really not a problem.
Wow.
Not at all. Never was. Can you imagine we were traveling on Trans-Mongolian?
Oh, did you get on, really?
Of course.
Wow.
Of course. I took them. So we went on the Trans-Mongolian. Siberian is the same. It's just one go to China, one through Mongolia, one goes through all the way to Vladivostok, all the way there. So 5 whole days on the train. Yeah.
Wow. No issues with them.
We're making it a fun thing because they're already teenagers, right? They know what they do. Yeah. They're teenagers. They know exactly. They're not like babies. No, they're not babies. They were teenagers already.
Yeah.
So 5 days, all we eat was instant noodles, instant potatoes, instant soup.
Yeah, that's what they had on the train. That's all they had.
You buy it first before you go.
Right.
Unless you travel on first class. We were like second class.
Sure.
Yeah. But it was fun.
What would you say is the hardest obstacle that you encountered within that 2 years? If there's anything that was dangerous, or was there anything that was, that's interesting, that was really difficult that you had to overcome?
One of the things that was education. I was thinking, because homeschool, you don't do all the AP classes.
They were taking AP classes?
No, they can't.
Oh, okay.
Because my son can't do that. Because he's
You have to be in person.
Yes,
to
you have to be in person, do
Got it.
AP, you have to do whatever, right? So there were no AP classes. So without AP classes, you actually can do a lot of application already, right?
For college.
For college,
Yes.
yes. So those were one of a few things that I'm like, oh, did I actually, hinder my son from going to the best school in the U.S., right? So that's one thing. And as for dangers, we taught them. To see things and places. So everybody was on the lookout for everybody.
Always.
Always.
Wow. Could you share some of the tips that, for our, listeners that or traveling, you know, because some people travel and they just close their
No.
eyes. They're just like, hey, whatever happens, happens. You know, like, but really, like, it
We
is
we
something to
don't
think
we
about.
were very simple. We spent 8 months in South America. So when you're in this South America, it's a beautiful country. I love South America. But certain places are very shady. You have to be sure. So we wear money belt. All of us have a money belt.
Like the fanny pack.
Oh, inside, not
oh.
outside.
Oh, so they have one of those. Oh, I see.
Inside, you know, you can be seen.
Right.
And everything is inside. And we wear very simple. We
No jewelry.
no, nothing like of such. We make sure that they know that where we are is going to be different. So you have to
Communication.
Yes.
Right.
My son was followed you know, in one of the bus stations. Bus stations is kind of a scary place.
Yeah.
So we saw people looking at his stuff, and we, you know, our eyes are sharp. When you travel a lot, I've been to 90 countries now. So by then I was like 40 countries. Yeah.
So you had quite experience.
We have we
like
know.
A skill with, I guess, being observant of your environment.
Yes, very observant. You have to be. You have to be. Doesn't matter where you go. Even Barcelona, you have to be observant.
Oh yes, absolutely, yes. I think there was this one street I remember when I went to. They were like, "That's the street." They usually pickpocket you, so you have to be aware. Right.
It's the small pickpocket people that I'm afraid of. I'm not afraid of anything else. Yeah, it's like you look and you give them signal. The kids, we taught them a certain signal that they have to see us when we do
right.
it.
Because it's like a setup usually, right?
Yeah.
It's like, it's not just they come and they take something.
No,
it's like somebody will come up to you and
Yeah.
like, talk to you, and then the other person is going to
Yeah.
bump into you by accident. Something like that, right?
Yeah.
Some kind of like a scenario.
True.
Oh, okay.
And also, we're not like stupid parents, you know, go everywhere. No. If we think that the place is dangerous, we will hire a driver and a local guide. For example, in Brazil, in Sao Paulo, we go to this favela.
You went into the favelas?
Yes, we went into the favela. You're not supposed, you know, you don't go to favela unless you go with a guide.
Right.
So we had only one guide with a driver. We went into the favela, deep into the favela.
I'm getting goosebumps talking about this. Just for our viewers who don't know about this, favelas are beautiful.
Beautiful.
Right? Usually, like you get a helicopter shot or a drone
Yeah.
shot nowadays, and it's just the colors. It's very vibrant. But consistently, even nowadays, I'm sure it was probably worse back then. Nowadays, they say don't go into the favelas because they're, you know, the structure of that community. It's really just like a shack. They're just like metal. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's like metal pieces that they just kind of put 4 pieces together, and then they cut a hole, and that's kind of like that's a house, right? They put like a piece on top, right? And it's kind of a community that's kind of built
True.
like that. So
Yeah.
it's not a wealthy area,
Yeah.
but to say the least, right?
It's not that they're bad people, but there's some bad
right,
people,
right.
you know. So you have to be very careful. We went there just because we want to go and check it out.
Yeah.
With a driver, of course, and have lunch there. We did. So this is one example of a place that we went that we used a driver. Even Sao Paulo itself is not very safe. Rio is another place that's not very safe. We were followed in Rio. Yeah.
Wow.
So when you're followed, you know, if people follow you, you have to make sure that you go to a shop quickly, right away. Go right in.
Any shop.
A shop.
Okay.
Just go right in. And make sure that you are, you know, just make sure these people are gone, then you go again. If you see them following you again, don't just leave.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Wow. So how do you prepare your kids for that? Like, these are bad people that are following us. Like, did you give them a signal and they just say, hey, we're gonna go this way?
Oh yeah.
I mean,
we have an eye contact that we have told them how to look at it. Yeah, they know. And they know our body language too. Yeah.
Right,
Certain
right.
body language that, you know, you use. If mom walks a little faster, means there's something.
Right. That's amazing.
You have to have a sense when you travel into places like that on your own. You really do.
It's just such a great experience. Not that being followed is a great experience. I mean, like, just traveling and encountering an experience like this, it's incredible for a developing mind to experience, because of course we would never want to put our kids in danger, obviously, right? But like, just being able to encounter, you know, this kind of a hardship, an obstacle in a way, and then, you know, survive it, right? This really, it helps your children grow tremendously, I could imagine,
Yeah.
right? Forever afterwards, you're just experiencing life with a different perspective.
Yeah.
And that's just incredible that
Thank
you
you.
gave your kids that.
Actually, it makes them who they are today because of they told me actually that that 2 years has actually made them. There was part of the process of growing up that sets them apart from a lot of.
Yeah,
The resume is good.
of
It's good for the
course.
resume.
You know, it's like whenever I personally travel out of country or even out of state, you know, a place where it's drastically different from New York City, which is where this is filmed, I always come back feeling different, having a different perspective about things. I love to talk to people in those places, you know, and that's just a short amount of trip. I can't even really begin to imagine the amount of emotional, spiritual, mental growth
Yeah.
that somebody goes through for traveling for 2 whole years straight, let alone a teenager. So that's incredible that you gave your kids this.
You want to
this
know a secret
experience.
sauce?
Yes, yes, yes. Of course, always.
My kids actually were making money while we were traveling.
What?
I'm not going to tell you what it is now. Maybe another time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Next episode.
So this is the thing. Every time, anything that you do with a kid, it has to have a purpose, right? So why am I drinking this water? What's the purpose? You have to tell them what's the purpose. Without purpose, they don't have this vision of what they are accomplishing. It's not gonna it's just not gonna make them happy.
Wow. And this seems to be a great theme within the whole episode, right?
Purpose,
A life
vision.
passion, right? Would
Yeah.
you say that? Like
Yeah.
your passion for traveling
Yeah.
gave you that sense of purpose to explore all these different things and
Yeah.
led you to who you are now. Incredible. Wow. So, oh man. Yeah, we have to marinate on this and chew on this for sure. But so within the 2 years, would you say you travel all the continents? No, right? Like most of the
No,
continents?
only to 14 countries very
14 countries.
slowly.
Okay.
Very slowly. 14 countries, let me see. Most of it on our own. The only time that we actually did some tours also, of course. But so 14 countries, 4 continents. So it's South America, Europe, Asia, New Zealand.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Would you say after the 2 years when you transitioned back, did you come back to New York
Yeah.
after? When you transitioned back with your kids, was it a big transition period for
Huge,
them?
huge.
Talk about that. Like how was that like?
It was hard to come back because after you've seen so much and then so little in many places, then you come to a consumer obsessed place.
Right.
It was hard for them. But so when we first moved back, we had our stuff in Florida. We didn't want to take it. So all we did was we rented a place here and we lived very simple because we were used to just suitcase.
Simple, right?
Yeah. We're just very, very used to just having suitcases. So, but we came with a purpose though. So with a purpose, it helps, right? So the kids, my daughter was, she came back and she was doing internship. So that was the purpose. And going to college at that time. So she was 2 years behind when she came back from college. So that's the thing. So, but she finished college. She got her degree, while my son was ready to apply for college. So there was a purpose when we came back. So one is preparing. One is looking for internship, working at intern. She was interning with Gary Vee.
Oh, Gary Vee at the time in 2000, was it 2012?
No, 2014. My daughter was
That's amazing. And he was, I think, just starting to get,
Yeah.
like, getting into social media and really
Yeah,
being more
yeah.
well known. Oh, wow, that's amazing. He got an internship
she
with
was
Gary
with, she has an internship with Gary Vee for 6 months.
That's incredible.
3 months they make it into 6 months, and then offered a job. She didn't want it. I think I don't know. I don't remember. But
Yeah.
anyway, so she was going to work and then college, while my son was preparing himself for college. Yeah, and working on his website at that time.
Would you say, did they ever tell you about, how strange it was to come back? I mean,
Oh,
this is
yeah.
just again my assumptions. But yeah, I mean, what did they tell you was there a culture shock from traveling for 2 years. I mean, again, it's during a time of childhood development, right? Like just the perception of the world is developed at that time. To now suddenly go from traveling all these different countries and then now to New York. I mean, what did they tell you about that transition?
My son is particularly it was difficult for him, yeah, because he is more like go go go, being active, and then suddenly he's like here, he has no friends, right? It's hard, and I think he went through a little bit of depression at that time. He did, a little depressed.
But you know, they say the hottest fire makes the strongest steel, right? I mean, and you were mentioning before, you gotta kind of go through all that, you know, a little bit of negativity or depression to kind of realize and overcome and just find yourself in a way, right? Would you say that that was kind of his moment to find himself? Because again, you're going through all this traveling, you
Yeah.
came back, and it's just like there's no traveling anymore, and you know
He doesn't want to travel too. He was done at that time, which was good.
he didn't
was
want to
like-
travel anymore.
No,
Oh,
he
he
was
was.
done.
Oh, he was the. Okay.
He was like, I'm done, which is good. 2 years, I think that was the max. He
Right.
was done. So for him at that time, he was working on his website. So that was his focus. And he was too young. He was too young to go to college. He was only 17. And I don't want him to go to college at 17. So I kept him 1 year at home to do his website.
That was his purpose. That you felt like his purpose,
Yeah.
and you encouraged him to
Yeah.
do it.
So he was doing his website at that time. And I'll go to that next time.
Yeah.
I don't want to go into detail.
No
of that,
problem.
but
No
yeah.
problem. No problem. And then your daughter was. Did she?
She's-
what
she
did
was
she say?
fine. She was okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you feel like she felt it was more of an advantage as soon as she came back with
Oh,
the resume?
definitely.
Being able to put
both,
it in.
for both.
Oh, for both.
Yes, they don't feel like it was a waste of their time. It was awesome. But of course, you know, when you come back, it's like, oh, all this movement, and then suddenly you're like nothing. You know,
Yeah.
I felt like,
Yeah.
you know, kind of depressed myself. I want to go on.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting because that just sets the foundation for you to do great things where you are, right? Like that adventurous spirit doesn't necessarily have to be physical travel, right? It could be experiences that within the place that you're in. So,
Right.
and I could totally see that in what you do, you know, what you've been doing. And I'm sure with your kids as well, they just transitioned that adventurous spirit, that adventure instead of a physical, but to now a more interpersonal growth,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, you know, it's I have to come back to this. I have to come back to this because there is something so fascinating that I would love to pick on. And I have an assumption of what it is, but of course I want you to, you know, elaborate on what you think it is. Because at some point, you know, consistently in your life, there was this sense of great courage to say, I'm just gonna do it. I'm just gonna go.
Yeah.
And just time and time again, right? I mean, you can talk about Michael Jordan, for example, in The Last Dance. And, you know, people who are successful have this courage about them that just, I'm gonna go do it. But I wanna pick your brain on this. Like, what do you think what was it about your life that, you know, that gave you that great sense of courage to just go and do it? I mean, again, I have an assumption on it, but I would love to hear what you think.
I have a mother who is very negative, still today. So when I look at her life, what could have been, I want to do the opposite. That is the motivation still today.
That's so deep on so many levels.
Many.
So many levels. Because I can totally relate, and I'm sure our viewers can relate as well. You have people, I have family members that are like this. I know people that are like this, that kind of just listened to their parents or listened to their elders. And, you know, there's nothing wrong with, you know, listening to your parents, but at the same time, your parents can only advise you on their own experiences in life.
Yeah.
So how can a person truly grow, right?
Yeah.
This is very, very deep statement that you made, and I think it's an amazing point that you made for our viewers.
You know why? Because there's one word that my mother used constantly that I want to do the opposite. Fear. She herself told me, today I'm who I am today because of fear. She told me, if I don't have the word fear in me, I would not be who I am today this way. So I'm taking the fear and flip it and say I have faith. Because the opposite of fear is faith and action.
Very, very deep.
That's it.
Wow.
I'm done.
Oh,
Today,
no,
I'm
that's amazing. Wow, that's amazing. The opposite of fear.
It's faith. You move forward. You don't know what is ahead of you. You have to take action. Nothing is going to happen to you if you don't take action.
That's right.
Nothing.
I heard an amazing quote about that. That fear is an emotion, but action is an actual. It's an emotion, not an emotion. It's a motion.
Motion, yeah. And then you kick off fear when you
Because
take action.
Because you're doing
Yes.
things now. Wow, that's so deep on so many levels. Claudia, I honestly don't know how I could end this even better than
I'm
that.
done.
Mic drop. Oh my goodness. I think, there's just so much in this story that our viewers can totally gain
I
from
hope
this.
so. I hope so.
100%. And there were many moments within, this account that I'd love to dive deeper on. But of course, we only have so much time. I'd love to have you back as
Thank
a
you.
recurring guest.
Appreciate that.
It's just, there's so many directions we can go. Claudia, thank you so much. It's such an honor for you to make time and actually, share with the world. This has consistently been who you are. Such a giving person, always willing to give back to the world. And thank you. From the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for coming
I hope
on.
it helps. That's all I want to do. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Claudia. Thank you so much for coming on. This episode is brought to you by Jing's Mortgage Team. Jing's Mortgage Team is a team of real estate mortgage professionals whose mission is to help anyone with their real estate needs. If you're looking to buy a home, sell a home, refinance your home, have credit issues, or in need of an investment loan, we can definitely help you. If you're looking for a real estate agent, we know the best of the best real estate agents. Visit the link below for more information.